Okay, so making a human head is pretty ambitious, but it can be done. First, I'm gonna get the construction layer going, and I'm gonna make a line about 10 centimeters high because that's our limit. So you don't have to measure. You can also eyeball, but as long as you have like a line or something just to reference, it's easy to make things more symmetrical. So I'm going to start with a circle, which will be kind of the bulb of the head. And I am going to revolve it to make it into a sphere. So here we go. That is our sphere. So now we have a sphere. We're going to look on the right side and the top. So now I'm going to kind of draw a jaw. So I'm going to use the polyline command. I'm going to go from here and I'm just going to turn off the ortho so I can just kind of freehand. Basically, a human jaw. So, oops. Let's try that again. Well, I didn't like that jaw anyways. Because I actually want... Now, I have my near snap selected, so I can select anything on our reference line. And I actually kind of want the jaw to be a little higher. Actually, there we go. And then it goes in a bit. And then I'm actually going to close this. So you see, this polyline is one closed shape because I'm going to make this into a 3D object at some point. Now, the human face isn't so angular, so I'm going to curve these lines with the fillet command. So I'm going to okay. Now obviously, just from the proportions, I'm doing a more masculine jaw. So if you wanted to do a more feminine jaw, it'd probably, this here would be a lot more narrow, but it would go up pretty much the same. We would just take this and narrow it down a bit. So now I'm going to take this object and make it into plane. And then just gonna select it, move it, put my ortho back on, and let's say I'll make it about 90 millimeters. Oh, actually, make it about 45. Oh, no, too much still. Oh, we can eyeball this too. So about there. And now I'm going to extrude surface, and then I'm gonna, yeah, that's about equal. Yeah, that looks about right. Oh, maybe not. This is probably the toughest thing about making a face. Just move this back a bit. There we go. So, there we are. So now we kind of have a bit of a skull. So I'm going to make that layer, and now let's work on a nose. So just to make things simpler, I'm going to turn off our 3D object, and I'm actually going to rotate this circle just so I can kind of have this side profile of what the head looks like, and I can draw based on it. Now I'm still drawing everything based on this one reference line. See, everything's always touching that. So I still have my near. I'm turning my ortho off because I'm going back. And I'm just, oops, that's a regular line. I want polyline. So let's say, yeah, the nose. Have a nose. And the nose kind of goes down a bit. No, it's not really important what it's doing in here because we're just going to union it all. Oh, oh, I see. I actually did something incorrect. See, I forgot that this is on the wrong plane. So I'm just gonna move it back so that it's onto this plane. Let's try that polyline again. So this bridge of the nose is going to be about here. Turn my ortho off. Make a little bump in the nose, and it goes a little down, just slightly. And then I kind of just want this to go inside here a bit. Here we go, we got a polyline. Surface, planar curve, there we go. Extrude, surface, and so again, I'm just going to eyeball it a bit. And move it to the middle so that there we go. Now we kind of have a nose and a jaw and a head. So let's union okay. I usually union one thing at a time because sometimes it just doesn't do it, and we have to figure out if it doesn't union. It's nice to know which object is causing the trouble. But this is all unioned nicely, and now we're going to get a little fancy. We're going to make some eye sockets. And then some eyes. So the eye socket is usually quite a bit larger than the eye. Say that's about it. And I'm going to make a little line from these two quadrants because I got to revolve this again. This, oh, and also I'm going to put these back on my construction layer so I don't mess anything up later down on the line. So I'm going to revolve this from these lines and oops. There we go. Right now it's kind of a cyclops, but we can move this. Let's try from here and get my ortho back on. So now we're going to have to use numbers because the eyes are symmetrical. So if this is about 100 millimeters, the eyes are usually in quadrants. So let's say, so it's 125 to one side. Oh wait, it isn't 100. Haha, that's why my numbers are off. much less than 100. The whole thing's 100, but the cranium is quite smaller. So let's say about 15. Yeah, that's it. So 15, and if that's 15, we're going to copy this. We're going to select it, and then we're going to move it 30 this way, because 15 times 2 is 30. There we go. And I think they kind of stick out a little too much. So I hold down Shift if I want to select more than one thing. And I can just kind of eyeball it. There we go. And it might have been a good idea to do the eyes first, because now, so I see this nose is probably a little too low. It probably should go up to here, but I'm not going to fix that just for expediency. And after this, we're going to want to do brows and ears. I'd suggest doing an ear by kind of just drawing one off into space. So that's kind of just do an ear. Yeah. And then I'll fillet it. If your fillet radius is too large, it just won't do it. Like, this was 7, but I couldn't use 7 here because there isn't enough area to make a 7. So I just try something a little smaller. So that's ear-like. Now I'm going to do something a little complex with this ear because I want to make ear ridges as well. So I want to make the basic membrane of the ear, but I also want to make the ridges. So this is my ear. I'm just going to copy it. Keep it in its exact. Oh. Copy from 0, 0 to 0, 0. That's the best way. Oh. So I already did copy it a bunch. Whoops. I'm going to just make that layer 3 and turn off layer 3. Make this layer 4. Turn off layer 4. I'm going to delete that. So let's work with layer 3. We will make this into planar curve, and then extrude. And this one, I only want to extrude a very tiny bit. Okay, so that's okay. Turn it off. Now we got this one. Exact same thing. I could have copied it as a surface, which would have saved me a step, but I'm not always that smart. Oh, I'm not doing that yet. That's why I'm not. Hold on. Because I want to just make this one ridges. So I'm going to go into here and just kind of, oh, just kind of copy. Oops. So I'm going to use my trim command. Oops. I got to select 2 lines. I'm going to trim between these. There we go. And this is kind of the ridge of an ear. And now I'm going to select it all. I'm going to hit join. Now if I wanted to, I could just kind of smooth all out these inner curves, but just for time, I'm not going to. So once again, we're going to make a plane. Extrude. And then our first surface was about this thick, so we're going to make this just a little thicker. And then now we're going to turn on our other thing, and I know it's not quite super ear-like, but to actually model a legit ear takes a long time and a lot of like little pieces. But just for the basic technique, there we go. So let's move this sucker to about where an ear would be. Now you see, I'm going to go into ortho. about here, here. See, depending on which window pane I'm dealing with, this ear moves about there. So about. So when I'm in the top pane, the ear won't move around, you know, here or here in any weird ways that are unpredictable. That just means I have to be a little more careful. See, if you feel the ear, it actually kind of is a cone. So I'd have to probably model some sort of cone shape and then maybe use a difference command to pull out this bit, but that's a lot of work. And I don't know, this will have to do. So if we know from our anatomy classes, the ear usually lines up. The bottom, you know, lines up to the eye approximately, just kind of surrounds it. Some people have larger ears, some people have smaller ears. And then usually the temple's about here, so the ear would actually go a little further back. That's close enough. So now we're going to use something called the mirror command. So, and basically we're going to use that same center line that we had, use the mirror command, follow the center line, and look at that. We have perfectly mirrored shape. And you can also draw half a head, model half the head, you know, the eye, the nose, and then mirror the other half, and then you get a perfectly symmetrical head. But I'm just doing this with the ear. Now obviously the cranium probably would go a little higher. I'm just gonna get rid of that. And well, I'm not gonna get into stretching because, well, I probably should have, instead of making a perfect sphere, I probably should have drew something with a little higher brow or higher forehead. That would have been smart. So I should have drew something probably yeah, maybe something more like that. So sketching would help if you try to sketch the basic shapes that go into a head. So basically, if you want to do the nostrils, you do the same thing, and you just keep building. And honestly, a head would take a very, very long time. So I'm going to just stop here And once again, you could do eyebrows, you could do the neck, which would just be like a cylinder, a circle you'd extrude into a cylinder, and then all the little ligaments in the neck would just be other little circles that you'd make into cylinders. And you can also use the difference command if you want. You can make some more ovals and fill them into the cheeks, and then union them into here, and you can create some cheeks as well, cheekbones. Basically, the face is just finding simple shapes and just combining them and unioning them until you get something more and more lifelike. So anyways, we are just going to turn off everything except for layer 2, because that is what we would export. And then show edges command once again, just to check. To see if there's any of this color, which would be bad. And hooray, there isn't. So this would print for 3D. And that's pretty much the best I can do as a beginning tutorial. If you want to keep doing it, you can, but I wouldn't expect like a perfect human head for someone doing their first 3D project. I would probably pick something easier, or I would find an existing head and just modify it slightly to fit your views. I will send you a link to some existing 3D objects. You might have to open those objects in Rhino and then resave them as an STL, so that would have to be done. Okay.